everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us today. It's going to be a great topic today. We're going to be talking all about gardening for pollinators, and I'm really excited to be joined here with Jon Peters. Jon, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit to the audience?
Sure. Happy to be here. I'm Jon Peters. I started a YouTube channel about 15 years ago, focused on woodworking. I love to work outside. My wife is the gardener. She's the knowledgeable one. I do the heavy lifting, I should say. And I do a little bit of the gardening. I know a little bit. I mean, more than maybe somebody who doesn't do anything. But I basically follow her lead. And last year, I worked with Parkseed to I don't know if you'd call it a pollinator garden, but I think anytime you're planting flowers, you're going to get pollinators. And my wife asked me to make gabled roofs for the beehives in the front yard, and we planted a bed of zinnias around them, and it's really beautiful. It just brought so much color to the yard, not only in the flowers but the pollinators. A lot of bumblebees, a lot of butterflies, and of course honeybees. I keep bees, so we always have a lot of bees around the yard and around the house.
Well, I am super excited to get your take on all of this because I mean, it sounds like you are out there a lot with the bees too and know what to do and I'm excited to chat more. So,
Sure.
yeah, welcome everybody. I see everybody here is already popping into the chat. I love to see you guys in there. Hi, everybody. Make sure you're popping in the chat. Introduce yourself. Let us know where you're from, where you guys are gardening and joining us from. And every time you do comment, you do get entered in to win our giveaway. We're going to announce the winner at the end of the stream. We're going to be giving away a free 1-year premium Seed to Spoon app subscription. Here, I'll pull it up so you can see exactly what you get here. So this is the, if you don't already have the Seed to Spoon app, make sure you go check it out right now. With premium, you get unlimited pictures that you can send up to Growbot, our AI chat assistant, to get plant identification, bug identification, plant help, like what's wrong with my plant. You also get free shipping on all of your orders through Parkseed too, which is amazing right there. And also unlimited gardens and plants and all of that you can log to. And then we're also going to be giving away some Parkseed zinnia seeds this week also. So a really good, exciting giveaway. And if you are joining us after the fact, don't worry too, because we do a giveaway right after also. So whenever this closes and it posts to YouTube and Facebook, you can still pop in there and comment. And next week in the beginning of the live stream, we will announce a winner, just like I'm about to right now. So last week, Dale and I actually covered spring gardening and talked all about gardening and in the spring and what to expect, what to plant and all of that. And this, oh, nope, wrong winner. That was from the week before. This is the new one right here. Congratulations to Matt R. This was the comment that got drawn to win the giveaway from last week. So congratulations, Matt. Send me an email here at info@seedtospoon.net and we'll get you all hooked up. Okay. Now let's hop in to chatting all about pollinators too. So it looks like, let's see. Hey, we have some bee house here from Harry Warp. Says, I have a mason bee house on the fence, shaded by a lemon tree.
Right.
Haven't seen bees around it yet. Should I move it someplace more visible? Should it
A
be in the center?
mason bee house? I'm not sure what a mason bee house is. Maybe a swarm catcher? That's kind of, a lot of people will put that out. It's a little bit later in the season, the bees have a tendency to swarm. That's how they multiply. As the hive gets fuller, the worker bees or the nurse bees will turn some of the bees into queens with royal jelly. And you kind of want to prevent that from happening. That's called swarming, because if the bees swarm, half of your hive leaves with the queen that's in the hive and they go somewhere else. And they generally, hopefully, go to a tree nearby and you can maybe catch that swarm. But if you're trying to catch a swarm to start beekeeping, you can make what's called a swarm catcher. And there's different ways to entice the bees to come into that: lemongrass, beeswax, things like that. And in fact, I think that's how Bert from Bert's Bees got started beekeeping, is catching a swarm.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, here I definitely agree with smart pots here. Yeah, your workshop does look amazing back there.
Oh, thanks. It's a great little space. It's a little barn. That's why we bought so we're in New Jersey and we bought this house. It's about 2 acres. We bought it about 30 years ago and it had the barn on the property. And the downstairs is a workshop and the upstairs is an art studio, sort of office. And it was here. Of course, I had to fix it up over the years. I'm always doing something to it to fix it up. But it's just so nice to have a place to go. It's and all the tools in here. I have 3 sons and a daughter. My 3 sons are older. My daughter's only 17. And at the moment, all of my sons know how to use all the tools in the shop. So that's kind of nice.
That is really great. So do you want to talk a little bit about like what bees need from a garden, like
Sure.
how they thrive in a garden?
Well, beehives want a lot of sun. You want to put them in direct sunlight. When I was just getting into it, I thought I wanted them to have a little shade. Just as a human, you want to be in the shade. You don't want to overheat.
Yeah,
But the
makes
bees
sense.
do a great job of keeping the temperature in the hive by themselves. So you want to do that. You want to make sure that there's water for the bees because they'll find water. That might be your neighbor's pool, or in my case, it's our outdoor shower. So I'm in the middle of trying to figure out a good fountain place to set up for the bees to keep them from the shower. Everybody in the house is comfortable with the bees, so it's not uncomfortable to be taking it. Everybody's showering with a bathing suit on because it's just a spigot that comes out of the house. It's not like a fancy outdoor shower with an enclosure. But everybody is pretty comfortable with rinsing off from swimming in the ocean with a half a dozen or maybe a dozen or more bees sort of circling around trying to get a drink of water. And you definitely want to have a lot of plants. I mean, bees at this time of year are going to get most of their nectar from trees, from locust and maple trees and things like that. But they will always be on the flowers. So my wife is a very good gardener, and she loves to garden, and she gardens with the bees out there. And I got into beekeeping, and she has no problem with it. She says they keep her company while she's doing her gardening.
I love it. I
Yeah,
love
and
it.
she hasn't.
For gardening plants too. So yeah.
Well, yeah. I don't know. She may have been stung once, maybe. I get stung a few times a year, but it's generally from accidentally pinching a bee when you're picking up the frames. Beekeepers will get stung because you're interrupting you're interrupting what they're doing, and generally you're squishing them, or maybe one gets inside your pants or something, and then it gets squeezed between your leg and your
No.
pants, and then it gets
It sounds
knocked.
like you're speaking from experience there.
Yeah, yeah, that happens. Yeah, yeah. You get used to it, but it does hurt. A bee sting does hurt. It kind of burns.
Yeah, so that is what Charlotte was asking too. Will they sting me while I'm working in the garden?
Well, they generally won't. I mean, most bees are very mellow. Honeybees. So with the honeybees, the females are doing all the work. The girl bees, they call it, a lot of beekeepers will refer to their bees as their girls, because the male bees are drones, and you can identify them because they're much bigger than the females. They have very big eyes, and they don't have a stinger, so they don't defend the hive at all. Their sole purpose is to mate with a queen. So
Interesting.
they they are born in the spring. They don't winter over. They're born in the spring, and they wait around. They look for a queen, and if they mate with the queen, they die. So a good day for a male bee is to leave the hive and not come back that day. You know, it's that means that male successfully mated with the queen. Now, a queen will mate up to, I think, 20 or 30 different males. And her whole goal is to, once she's born, she'll go out on mating flights for a week or two or three, and she'll mate with so many males, and from there she'll go back into the hive and then just start laying eggs for her life cycle, which is about, some people will say 5 years, but usually like 3 to 4 years. You'll have a good healthy queen that's laying a lot of eggs. That's what you want. You want her just constantly laying eggs all day and all night. And then there's I think it's a 21 day. If I'm, I think it's like a 20-day period between from the moment that the egg is laid to the moment where the new bee emerges. And then that bee is either going to be a well, you can tell a drone cap cell looks different than a female cap cell. The capped cell for females is more flat, and with drones, it's kind of it looks like a little bullet almost, little bullet shape. Maybe because the drones are bigger.
Interesting.
There's all, and I know I'm not a great beekeeper by any means at all. I I just have done it enough to know a little bit, and we do get some honey, and some years are better than others. And I think last year was maybe 60 or 70 pounds, and the year before that was a lot more, maybe double that.
This is an interesting question that we had. So when the queen dies, is there an heir?
Well, so what you do is you're trying to. So I have a queen that's 1 year old now. I just found her in the backyard here, and she's marked blue for the year she was born. That was 2025. So you take a special marker and you mark the back of her thorax,
Let's see.
uh, which lets you know what day, what year she was born, and also makes it a lot easier to find her. Even though the queen is probably twice the size of a worker bee, or maybe even a little bit bigger, uh,
Hmm.
you can find her. You kind of get a trained eye, but she looks very much like a bee. So you can imagine looking at a frame of bees, and there's thousands of bees walking around. You're trying to find that queen. But if she has a little blue or white or yellow dot on her back, she's going to stand out, and you'll be able to find her. So as the queen gets older, you might think about replacing her, and you can convince the hive to start new queens in a variety of different ways, and they'll do that on their own as well. So around this time of year, you start to go into the hive, and if you don't want if you don't want the bees to create a new queen, you make sure that the bees have enough space. And if you see any queen cells starting to be made, you get rid of them, you scrape them away, because you want to suppress that tendency that they want to grow another queen, because you don't want them to swarm, because you want to go into the honey flow with as many bees as possible. The more bees, the more honey. So let's say that you have a unproductive queen, you can buy a queen from there's if you go
Wow.
online, yeah, you can just buy queens, and it'll be shipped to you. Or you might know a neighborhood beekeeper who specializes in keeping queens, and you might get a queen from them. Or you can grow your own queen, and you can also split your hive. So around this time of year, you can take um, you can take half of the hive, as long as it's strong enough, and as long as there's eggs in the frames, and they'll create a new queen. So you can go through your hive and just take those frames, put them in another hive, and they'll create another queen, hopefully. But then you're on a sort of a slow timeline, because now it's going to be at least a month before that queen is laying eggs again. So that's why a lot of people opt to split the hive but buy a queen. That way they have half the hive, but they already have a laying queen. That's the other thing too. You don't want to just buy a queen, you want to buy a laying queen, a queen that's already laying eggs. So you don't want to wait for her to go for her mating flights and all of that. This time of year, you really want to get into the season with as many bees collecting as much nectar as possible.
Yeah. We had a question here from Hannah. Do you get stung trying to mark her?
Well, you have gloves on, and there's a little. If you're very confident, you can pick up the queen. I'm not as confident. I don't want to squish her. So there's little queen cages that you can get, or these little tools that you can get the queen, put her in there, and then carefully kind of position her so her thorax, her back, is up near the top of the tool, and then you carefully just kind of put a dot on her back. And it's one of those things. For me, I'm always, because I'm admittedly not a great beekeeper. I'm always like a little nervous at that point because I don't want to hurt her, and I don't want to put too much paint on because you don't want the paint to get on her wings. So it's I've never had a problem with it, but it's always a little tense. But it's nice having a marked queen because then you can see her. It's just so much easier.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So what all have you grown around for them?
Well, like I said, the we happen to live in an area that has a forest around it, even though we're in New Jersey. I think a lot of people think of Newark Airport when they think of New Jersey. But behind the house and in front of the house are acres of trees and trees. So
That's cool.
they're getting a lot of the nectar from the trees at the beginning. But we do just we plant flowers. So the zinnias, they immediately attracted the honeybees, and they just go in and out. So anything that you plant, the bees, if they like it, they're going to find it. Um, dandelions, which people don't plant, but they love. Dandelions are sort of the first. I
Yeah,
don't use anything. I don't use any pesticides on our property or herbicides because well, we just don't like that, and also we don't want to hurt the insect or even bird population. So I think it's not so much about what we plant; it's about what we don't do. We don't put we don't have we don't have that perfect green carpet lawn. We keep it pretty nice, but it's if you see a perfect lawn, that's basically a desert for bees. It's like
yeah, very
golf
true.
courses are not good for bees.
Yeah. Yeah. So which here, I'm trying to pull it up. You grew this Cinderella purple, right?
Yeah,
And also the double Zahara
yeah, and
salmon.
those it was a beautiful combination because I think they were at different heights as well. And again, this is my wife sort of picking this, and so we did this late in the year last year. So we had them, I think, towards the end of August, if I remember correctly, and we removed the grass. Some people will till it in, but I removed the grass and put in a little topsoil, a little uh, little stuff to help it grow, and then we mixed the seed with play sand to help cast it, and it came in really nice, kind of a perfect square. This year, I think we're going to make it look a little bit more natural, maybe soften up the edges and maybe have it wrap around the hives a little bit.
Yeah, I pulled up some pictures here of your garden, so to kind of show, since you were talking about the
Sure.
how you did it and all of that. So you want to talk about like how you built it and how you
So
went about doing it.
yeah, sure. So the vision was to have the with this field of flowers with these white beehives and having the gabled roofs, which is not the best way to keep bees with a gabled roof because often you use the top to work on, you flip it upside down. And so you can imagine if you flip a gabled roof upside down, it's not really going to be a working surface. But it was just for aesthetic reasons and to have the kind of a viewpoint from either looking head on or looking from the back of the hives to see that sort of white gabled roof and then this field of flowers. So I put the hives there first, and I did that by splitting the hives and then once that was done, then I worked right in front of them to dig out the soil. And as you can see, the beehives were there as I was doing all that work. So the bees are coming and going all day long, and I didn't get stung at all. There's nothing to worry about. When a honeybee stings you, it dies. So it generally doesn't have a, a big motivation to sting you. Now, I don't know anything about the more uh, the more dangerous bees, I guess, that you get in southern areas that you hear about. You know, you always hear those nightmare stories. I haven't
Yeah.
had that. And that also comes from having the right queen. You know, but one of the people that when I was first getting bees from I got the bees, and his name is Rocky, and he works his bees without having any equipment on at all. You know, he's wearing a t-shirt, he doesn't have a veil on, he doesn't have gloves on, and his pride is how relaxed his girls are. That's what he says. My girls are so relaxed, you know. Um, so so my bees happen to be very mellow as well. Uh,
Nice.
and what happens? So anyway, so that's what I'm doing over here. I'm sort of digging up the grass, raking in a little topsoil, some fertilizer, and then once that was done, casting the seed mixed with play sand to have it spread out more evenly. And then after watering it, it was relatively quick. Within I think 3 weeks, we were starting to get some flowers.
So you had like a bucket there that you filled up with some sand and you just put the seeds in there and just
Yep.
sprinkled it around everywhere?
Yep. I sprinkled the seeds into the play sand, mixed that up,
Uh-huh.
and then just kind of walked from one side to the other, kind of going back and forth, just casting the sand
Nice.
and the seed at the
Yeah.
same time. Kind of being careful I didn't use it all up too quickly because I didn't want to
Mhm.
get to the other end and run out. So kind of paced myself, and then when I got to the other side, then I kind of came back, and then that was it. And then the trick with anything is water. You have to, especially in the summertime. So then water
Yes.
in and kept it wet, and it did really well. It was really beautiful. I'm looking forward to doing it this year.
I know you said your wife picked out the flowers last year, but we got a couple different questions from people asking if there were certain colors of flowers that the bees were attracted to over other colors.
I don't know about that. I don't know what I know that you don't wear dark colors when you're keeping bees because uh, maybe this isn't true, but this is what I've heard and it makes sense. Is that if you're wearing black, that would kind of resemble a black bear, and that's black bears are sort of notorious for getting into beehives,
That makes sense.
and
Yeah.
the bears are so tough. Uh, the bees will generally go for their mouth and their nose and their eyes because I don't know if a bee could get through the fur of a bear.
Here, I am going to pull up Growbot real quick and ask, are there certain questions? Oh my gosh, I'm asking a question. I can't talk and type at the same time. I have a hard time. Colors that bees like of flowers. Let's see what Growbot in the Seed to Spoon app says. They're particularly fond of blue, purple, violet, white, and yellow flowers.
Hmm,
These colors are more visible to bees and are often associated with flowers that provide nectar and pollen. So, planting a variety of flowers in these colors can help attract and support bees. Nice. Cool.
that's good to know.
Yeah, I know. That is interesting. Very cool. So when you did this, how did you keep the weeds and the grass from coming back to that area?
I didn't really do anything special. I just cut around it.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, just cut to the edge. You can see there is an edge to the garden that I put in with a spade. And
Okay.
this time of year it needs to be cleaned up. That's one of the other projects that's on the list around the house. This time of year, probably like a lot of people are getting ready to do a lot of gardening and get their plants in the ground or at least get the seeds started. So that's what
Yeah.
I'll be doing. It's nice. I often will take a little bit of a break from the wood shop I mean, I'll still be building things and creating woodworking videos, but I'm fortunate that I work for myself and I can just get out in the garden. So that's
That
what I
is
love.
so nice, isn't it?
I love it. I like that. I like that kind of good tired you get from hard physical work. You know what I mean when I say that? It's like you've. I transplanted a tree on Sunday, and so I slept really good Sunday night.
That's funny. So let's talk a little bit about when to plant. So everybody is going to be a little bit different, but I'm pulling up the Seed to Spoon app here, so it'll kind of help show you guys how to find when to plant, at least for your zinnias. So if you come up here in the growing guides section, we will type in zinnia because it's all the way at the bottom of the list. So for me, it's gonna be after my last frost, and a little bit after it looks like. So I still have a couple weeks left for me, but I'm here in Oklahoma City in Zone 7. I know everybody's a little bit different, but I mean, that is why we made the Seed to Spoon app. So that way you can see when you can plant. So that should be helpful, hopefully, for you guys. You can see exactly when you can get out there and start planting and all of that. Um, I saw this question from Bet. She says, "Are nasturtiums a good pollinator plant for strawberries and vegetables, or do they attract too many aphids and you wouldn't want them?"
I don't have a good answer for the bees. My wife would probably know that, but I wouldn't know that. I'm not even sure what those are. I know what strawberries are, but the
Yeah,
asters.
oh, nasturtiums are gorgeous. I love them. Here, you can kind of see some pictures of them right here. I love nasturtiums.
Oh yeah,
They make amazing companion plants for like I plant them like always next to my tomatoes and peppers and all of that, and they are definitely great at like repelling or attracting pests to them.
Hmm.
So that way it's away from your other plants.
Oh, so that's why you plant them next to your tomatoes?
Yes, because the pests will go to the nasturtiums instead of the tomatoes. So it's like protecting your plants. Yeah, it's interesting.
This year I'm going to. It's so funny. There's one area that's kind of my area this year, and I like to do more vegetables, and so that sounds really interesting to me because I'd love to have a successful tomato crop, which is for me seems to be difficult to have. I've had some decent years, but nothing great.
Yeah, hopefully, I mean, plant some basil, marigold, nasturtium, like all of those right next to your tomatoes, and hopefully that'll help. Yeah. While we're on the topic of nasturtium, Paige had a question too about nasturtiums. So, are they better direct sown or started indoors? Technically, nasturtiums do better started outdoors, but I mean that being said, like I start some indoors too because I like to get a head start on them. But they're not one of like the plants that or the seeds that I'm like they have to be direct sowed or they're not going to do well. But I mean, that's what they prefer, but they do okay transplanted, if that makes sense. So, kind of the best of both worlds, right? Oh, I like this description from Desiree. They're described as a lily pad clover leaves with a pretty flower. I like it. Yeah, great tips. Okay, let's see. So let's talk a little bit about care of a pollinator garden as well too. Um, So, how did you go about carrying? I know you talked about how to get it going and how you planted it out. But how do we take care of it?
It seemed to be great on its own. So we planted it late in the season. I don't know exactly when. I think it was in August, like the beginning of August, and um, it was looking like that probably towards the end of August or early September. I might have my dates a little bit off by a week or two. But then we just let it go, and it went well into the fall, and then I just cut it back.
Yeah. I mean, that is basically what I found. I mean, they are probably one of the easiest things to grow. Just growing zinnias. We always, my husband always jokes that he feels like an amazing gardener in the summer because he has a zinnias. Because everything else, like in the heat of the summer, will like shrivel up, not be doing as well. But these zinnias will always be thriving and blooming, and yeah, they're just so easy.
I did have to spray it with it's called a liquid deer fence. It's an all natural thing made with garlic, and it smells kind of terrible. Have you ever used it? We have a lot of deer here in New Jersey.
Interesting. No, no. So we have, I mean, we have a fence around our property as well as a fence around the garden too. So we typically don't have issues with deer, although they are always down the road. But
It could
yeah.
have been a groundhog as well, but I think it was a deer. And I know that because I was looking at the flowers and I was getting pretty excited. And then one morning I was like, "What happened?" And it was sort of right on the edge. And now it was definitely deer because then you could see the telltale hoof print of a deer. So yeah, this is this. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's liquid deer fence,
I
and
have not, but that sounds amazing. I bet a lot of people here that would
well,
be
it
helpful.
does work, but you have to stay on it. And it's one of these things. I put a little bit in just sort of a squirt bottle, and it's a concentrate. It's maybe $40 for a quart, and it just has a pretty rough, kind of garlicky. I don't know, kind of a not a great smell, and you know that because you get it on your hands when you're putting it on everything. Uh, but you have to stay on top of it because if it rains, then the deer will come back. Sometimes you can kind of train the deer that if you stick with it enough in the early spring, they kind of know like, oh yeah, that's something we don't like, and then you might get lucky. But I know my hostas have done really well the last few years, and I have people right down the road that say their hostas get eaten to the quick almost immediately.
Have you ever tried a motion activated sprinkler for deer?
I haven't, but that's another thing I'm thinking about, especially with this vegetable garden that I have this garden area. You know, the thing with a garden, in my opinion, is for me at least, I need to keep it small enough that I can handle it. And
Yes.
it's also close to the house, so it'll be easy to water. So that garden is the planting area for vegetables is probably a little less than 20 by maybe a little less than 30. And last year, that area was smaller, and I've just expanded it by. There was sort of a big rhododendron that was squeezing that area in. I moved that. I'm going to move another one and have this sort of 17 by 25 area that that I'm hoping to have a very very good garden this year.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. Good luck. I'm sure you'll do great. um, yes, so this is actually a picture from John's garden right here. This is his bee houses and then zinnias that he planted right behind it.
Yeah,
And
so
we're
that's the front yard, and so the bees are facing south. So you try to face your bees into the sun, and so that's just lawn. And like I said, it's not a great lawn because we don't use any pesticides or herbicides on the lawn. But it's just sort of a long area without any tree. You can see the trees are sort of in the far background.
yeah.
So the bees are in pretty much full sun until about 5 o'clock. And if I have to go in the hives, I especially in the summertime, I try to go in when I'm in a little bit of shade. Otherwise, it's pretty uncomfortable.
Yeah. So Yvette was saying, so is there any benefit to planting flowers near, but not absolutely right next to the garden? She has limited space. She has some green socks on the deck and wants to plant flowers nearby on the other side of the deck. I mean, I think that this would be super beneficial still. I mean, how far do bees travel? Do you
Oh,
to
they travel far.
Yeah,
I'm
I
not
figured.
exactly sure, but they travel far. They don't just stick to your yard. They're
So even if I had like a bunch of flowers in the front yard, they'd still come visit
oh yeah,
my garden in the
absolutely.
backyard. Nice. Oh,
Absolutely. Like they go beyond the trees. They're like there's an area a mile or so away from the house where I hike, and I see a lot of bees there. And I'm often thinking, oh, some of those are probably my bees because they definitely do travel. Now, an interesting thing about bees, though, is you can only move a hive. I think it's something like no more, no more than 3 feet and no less than 3 miles. So if you move a hive, let's say I pick up one of these beehives and I move it 10 feet, all of the all of the bees that are out foraging will come back to where the beehive was and they won't be able to find it, even though it's 10 feet away. And they'll eventually exhaust themselves and just die there. So if you want to move a hive, you move it like I've done it before where I just move it like 2.5 feet a day, or not 2.5, a foot and a half a day. I'm just staying on the safe side.
mm-hmm.
So the way you can get around that is if you're splitting a hive, then you do that because the bees that are staying in the hive are nurse bees and they're not foragers yet, so they're not out. That's something you have to consider when you're moving a hive.
That's interesting. I never would have thought about that. Oh, this is a good question from Mike. Do you have plans on how to build your own hive?
I have plans on my website. They're my hand drawn plans, meaning they're not professional. Back in the day, I used to just draw things up like I do when I'm building things. Now I have a designer put it together professionally. And that was for a top bar hive. And a top bar hive is much different than a Langstroth hive in that it's a long hive and the bees build their own comb. And what's nice about that is you're always working at the same level and you're only lifting up the maximum weight of one bar that would, if it was filled with honey, it would be the heaviest bar. And that would be maybe 8 or 9 pounds at the most. And that's not that big of a deal. So it's not going to hurt your back. When you're working with Langstroth hives, if you have to lift a honey super, it can weigh as much as 40 to 60 pounds, and it's often awkward. Um, but I offer those plans on my website for the top bar hive for free, and probably two or three of those are downloaded every day or more, especially come like the end of February. People are starting to think about building that hive. Now, I don't know if I would keep bees in the top bar hive again, even though I like it from a comfort level much better because you basically open up the roof and then you're just dealing with these bars. Um, but I feel like the bees kind of do better in the box of a Langstroth hive. Uh, Another downside of top bar hives is there's no frame around the comb. With a Langstroth hive, you have a rectangle, and so the bees are basically building within that rectangle. With a top bar hive, they determine what their comb is going to be, and you're kind of hoping that they stay within the just the space of the hive. So you end up with these kind of triangles. But sometimes they connect that comb to the side of the hive, and then you kind of have to cut the comb a little bit, or if you tried to pull it out there, you could break the comb. So it was something that I first did when I first got into beekeeping because I like the look of a top bar hive, and because I'm a woodworker, I thought, oh, that'll be a cool thing to build. And I kept bees that way for about 2 or 3 years, and then I went to Langstroth hives, and it's probably the most successful way to keep bees. Although now I'm looking at something called a long hive, which is basically you're using the same frames as a Langstroth hive, but you're using it in a long way. But I've heard some pros and cons to that as well. My motivation is to try to do something that's not as hard on my back because you're in a sort of an awkward position holding the frames, looking for when you're inspecting the hive, and it's also kind of awkward when you're lifting those 40 to 50 pound honey supers from different heights. That's like the long answer.
You're good. I'm just going through and reading all the questions that everybody has. Um, a lot of questions for you, which yes, I mean it's amazing. Everybody was asking about different types of hives. Like Hannah said, what do you think of those honey on tap beehives?
Well, all of I don't know. So that's called the flow hive, and in those hives, the comb is created by the people who make that hive, and basically they uncap it or they switch something where the honey's able to get out. Now it looks pretty cool in theory, but all of the sort of the hardcore beekeepers that I know kind of poo-poo that idea. They say there's too many things going on in the hive to actually have that work as smoothly as they make it appear in the commercials and in the videos. So the downside of beekeeping is the pests that come with beekeeping. So you have varroa mite, and that's something you have to go. That's what's basically the problem with. You've heard of colony collapse and all the problems that bees have. That's often caused by varroa mite, which is basically a mite that gets on the bees and sucks the life out of the bees. And so you theoretically you should treat for varroa mite. So I'm not sure how you treat for varroa mite in a flow hive. Another thing with two more pests with beekeeping is something called small hive beetle, and they're going to get in the hive, and generally a good strong colony will keep them down, will keep their population down, but that's something that you have to deal with. So it's you have to kind of go in the hive and you put in hive beetle traps, and there's all sort of ways to deal with that. And then there's another kind of annoying thing about keeping bees, and that's wax moth, and they kind of cause havoc with the honeycomb. And so in a perfect world, you think, oh yeah, I just get this flow hive and all I do is hit this tap and I get honey. But you're not really thinking about all the other things that you have to deal with, like the wax moth and the hive beetles and other things that you may have to deal with.
Are there a lot of different types? Because so Harry Warp here was asking like, what are the various different types of hives?
Oh yeah, there's so many different types of hives. There's the Langstroth hive, like you're seeing in that picture right there. Those are 10 frame Langstroth hives. So they have 10 frames across. There's also 8 frame Langstroth hives, and that's something I'm seriously considering moving towards because I think maybe a tighter colony might do better. A friend of mine who's a pretty good beekeeper seems to think so, and he's had really good success keeping bees that way. So I might go to that, which means I have to make new gabled roofs. There's the top bar hives, like I mentioned. There's at least 2 or 3 other that are the names are escaping me now. But yeah, there's some people who keep bees without any interest in honey. They just want to make a home for the bee.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's amazing right there.
Well, the
Um,
bees definitely do need the honey. You can't take all their honey because that's why they're collecting the nectar so they can make it through the winter. Because what happens is the bees stay in the hive during the winter. And the best analogy is if you think of penguins, they create like a circle and they kind of keep revolving around that circle. And that's how they stay warm. It's kind of the same thing with bees. They create a cluster in the hive and they vibrate and they keep that hive at, I think it's like 98 degrees or something like that. And the way they have the energy to do that is by consuming the honey and the pollen. So they get their carbohydrate from the honey and they get their protein from the pollen. So they collect both.
very interesting. Do you have any specific flow hive that you prefer?
Flow hive. Uh, I
Yeah.
think flow hive is one. Flow hive is that popular thing that blew up around 2020, and that's that thing where you see kind of people going out there and they hit a little tap, and then they put honey on their pancakes. That's the kind of thing that I don't know. I wouldn't say I don't have a negative feeling towards it. It looks too easy to me though. And the beekeepers that I know who know more than I do seem to think it's kind of kitschy and
Yeah.
wouldn't be as simple as that. I could be wrong. But the other thing too, it's kind of funny. Like in some of those videos, they show like kids walking out there with pancakes, getting honey on their pancakes. If there were honey going on pancakes outside the hive, the bees would be all over that. So like when you're pulling honey frames, when you start to pull honey frames from a hive for a harvest, the way I do it, because the bees are following the honey. They want to stay with that honey and put it back in the hive. So if I pull a frame of honey out of the hive, and sometimes when you do that, a little of the capping breaks off, so some honey is spilling. That's getting the bees kind of excited to get back into it. So I use a wheelbarrow, and I have an empty hive box in the wheelbarrow with an old beach towel on top of it, and I take the frame that's a capped frame of capped honey, shake the bees off, and sometimes I have to brush them a little bit, and then pick up the beach towel, put the frame in there that's full of honey now, and then put the beach towel back over it. If I didn't do that, that frame would be full of bees. So when you see these videos of somebody getting honey out of the hive and everything's like mellow and calm, as a beekeeper, I think, wouldn't there be 1,000 bees on that stack of pancakes? So that's kind of where I, and they kind of make it look really kind of nice. And I'm a little suspect.
Robin says that she's a Jersey girl and curious how you care for your bees in the winter.
So it's funny. You hear a lot of people talk about how they vent their hives. You know, a lot of people will put the lid a little bit askew so some air gets out. They might have a screened bottom board, and I did all of that stuff. And then my friend Andrew, who he's honey in Wales down in North Carolina, he's the guy who kind of, if I ever have a question, I call Andrew. And he keeps his bees in 8 frame boxes and no venting at all. No venting at all, with just a small, like 2 by 3/8 of an inch entrance. And the top lid has 2 inch thick insulation on it. And the reason for that is heat rises, and that just keeps it from escaping. And in the wintertime, it also keeps condensation from building up. So for years, I would keep the bees and I would use some type of venting system. But then once I started to do this small entrance at the bottom, no vent at the top, 2 inch insulation, my bees have wintered over much, much better. And so the analogy that Andrew gave me, because he's a very pragmatic kind of guy, he's like, John, think about it. Can you control the heat in your house if you have your basement windows open and your attic fan and your attic windows open? You can't do that. And I said, I guess that makes sense. So you'll see the bees. If it's really hot, the bees might be hanging out on the front deck of they call that the front deck or whatever, the front of the hive, or they might be fanning their wings next to the entrance to get air in there. So the bees are really in control of keeping the temperature where they want it. And according to my friend Andrew, and now that I've had success with it, I think not not doing a not doing a lot with screens or venting or anything like that is the way to go.
Yeah, everybody is very interested in bees. I hope I haven't missed anybody's questions. If I have, I mean, please pop them up. I'm trying to pop up all of them as I go through. Um, Several duplicates. I was gonna pull up Paige's comment here, so I think this is a great idea too. Just thinking of doing several rows of zinnias along the fence line that gets a lot of sun. That would be amazing too for pollinators. And I've heard too these Parks Picks mixed zinnias are my personal favorite, but
Yeah,
they
those,
get so tall. Oh my gosh, they get like, I mean, I am very tall. I'm 5'10", and these were planted in like wooden raised beds, but they're like this, my wooden raised beds are like this, but they were like taller than me, tall.
Wow.
I
I want
know.
to, I think I might like those in my garden amongst my vegetables.
Oh my gosh, they were amazing. And seriously, there was bees, butterflies all over them. Like it was amazing. But yeah, this would make a great addition like along the fence line. That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking when I saw her comment. I was like, yes, these these
My
ones need
wife
to.
and I have a little bit of a friendly competition because she doesn't really want me in her garden to unless I'm doing something that like she needs moved. You know, we have some pretty cool things in there, like some iris that have come from my mother's house that came from her grandmother's house. You know how it is with bulbs, especially. You kind of keep
Mhm.
moving them around. We have some amazing poppies from Vermont. So this one area that I'm taking over, it's like I said, it's a friendly competition, but I really want to hit the ground running and make it really nice. I definitely want to put some type of water feature in it for sure.
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so I would recommend this. And hey, if you want to keep it small, this is like the exact opposite variety too of the Parks Picks mix, which I love these because they are they're like real small and compact, but the blooms are just huge. Like they were huge blooms for how small of a plant it was. It was interesting. So these ones make an amazing addition to like the edgeways and yeah. So I had to pull this up too since I talked about real tall ones, talk about real short ones too. Okay, we have a couple other questions too for you. We have empty hives on an extremely shaded property. The bees seemed to think it was too cold, so they left. Any advice on keeping bees in a hive with limited sun?
I don't have a good answer for that because everybody tells me they want sun. They want the
Yeah,
sun. So
yeah, yeah. We had somebody else about any ideas for partial sun. Well, if we're talking like flowers for partial sun, are we talking flowers here? Maybe.
you may,
Um, But yes, I mean, zinnias do love full sun and they will thrive in that. But in part sun, I mean, you could do I mean, I always do like impatiens and coleus and things like that in the shaded areas. I've done like vinca before in partial sun areas and those have done really well. And again, like beautiful blooms, so they should be attracting bees. So yeah.
yeah, if you can cut a branch down or something to get the sun, that's the best solution. You know, they definitely do. Bees definitely want it. The hive definitely wants to be in the sun,
Yeah,
or at
yeah.
least some sun.
I wish I had a better answer for you for how to keep the city from spraying, but unfortunately, I don't have an answer for that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But good luck. So hopefully, you can just do it away from the areas, or like keep them hidden in the backyard. Okay. Yes. So she was asking about flowers. Here we can go into Growbot real quick and ask real quick about best part shade flowers for bees. Okay, so here's quite a few answers right here. So lungwort, foxglove, bleeding heart, columbine. I mean, they have all of. I recognize every single one of these. I haven't grown all of these personally, but I do recognize all of these from Park Seed. I know that they have them. So definitely worth a try on a lot of these. I know a lot of these are like shade plants too. So yeah. Okay. Well, we can go ahead and do a a giveaway also. So if you remember at the beginning, we were going to be doing a giveaway at the end for a free 1-year premium Seed to Spoon app subscription, along with some Park Seed zinnia seeds as well too. So the lucky winner here. Congratulations to Diane Goodwin. Email me at info@seedtospoon.net and I'll get you all hooked up with all your goodies. So thank you everybody for commenting too and entering. If you did not win and you really, really want to win, don't worry. Like once this goes and posts, like go back and comment again and you'll be entered in to win for our giveaway that I will draw at the beginning of next week. And I do this every week. So every Tuesday, same time, same place. I'm always live talking something gardening, chatting, answering questions. And yeah, it's always fun. But yeah, thank you so much, Jon, for joining us.
My pleasure.
This was an amazing conversation. I learned so much that I did not know. Like that was amazing.
Oh, good. It was a lot of fun for me. I really enjoy talking with you and getting the questions. A lot of fun. I feel like I don't know anything about beekeeping. Then I start, oh yeah, I know a few things.
It seemed like you know everything. I know everybody out here too loved it, and lots of everybody saying thank you. Well, everybody, thank you all so much. And I popped in Jon's link to his YouTube as well in the comment section. So make sure everybody goes and follows him. And yeah, we'll see y'all next week. See you guys.